Live.
All right. I'm going to put everybody on mute here.
Q&A session started.
Welcome, everybody, to Saturdays with Tara. I'm Mary Beth at the Law of Attraction Club on the web at theloaclub.com. This hangout on air is our introduction to the theme of the week. All of this is also being simulcast on our conference line, and we'll continue on the conference line with more discussion and Q&A after the hangout. You're welcome to join us. Remember, on the conference line, if you have questions or comments, to press *6. Robin will be bringing through Tara for us today, so we welcome Robin and Tara. So over to you, Robin and Tara.
And welcome to you. And this week, we in this one were talking to one of his human friends and invited her to step through the door we often refer to. The door beyond which the world is as you would have it be, the world of your dreams. She had many words to describe it, but the predominant feeling was relief. Now, relief is good as a first thought. It's much better than despair or anger or frustration. But it carries with it relief from what? Within it, there's a focus somewhat on what is not wanted, rather than a joyous leap forward into what is wanted. So then we asked her to think back to the most joyful time of her life, and her vibration immediately began to raise as she started to talk about having fun. Then we asked, what is it that prevents you from feeling like that about the world beyond that door? Surely, she said, a memory has more power than a newly imagined thought. Now, if you've been around us for a while, you know that we define memory as just another word for imagination. In truth, there are infinite paths that got you here, and that imagined past of yours, all that history of the world, is just one version you've been practicing. Your past is no more real and no less of a now moment choice than your future is. But all that aside, imagination is the way you create. Imagination is everything. What then is it that holds you apart from imagining what you want? It's being realistic, seeing the world as something out there you have to deal with. It's being practical because you were taught to stop daydreaming. It's choosing to believe that you've lost the ability you used to have to simply play make-believe. It's choosing to believe that actual real memories are something quite different from once upon a time. Well, we're here to tell you that imagination is the key to that door. Imagination is thought. You, at your core, are a consciousness. The most real thing about you is that you have an awareness. You think. In a thought-created world, what you think creates everything in your experience. You've heard us say many times, if we were in your shoes, we would, and then what follows are the ideas we offer from our perspective. So we're re-inviting you to come with us to our vantage point, to see things from that new perspective. And once you're standing in that place, we'll be challenging you to reset your priorities. Because the promise of the law of attraction, that there's nothing you cannot be, do, or have, and nothing you cannot change, these words are not a false promise. You don't have to become superhuman. You are superhuman. You don't have to get better at something. You're already everything you need to be. You just need to make different choices. Let's start with these questions. What are you doing here on Earth? Or perhaps we should ask, what on earth are you doing here? If it's true that you chose to be here, and if it's true that you create everything in your experience, and if it's true that you chose to be here simply for the fun of creating in this very focused space-time world, how's that working out for you? Let's expand on what might have seemed outlandish, the headline we chose. Life is meaningless. Life is inherently meaningless until you choose its meaning. You're not here for a purpose. You're here to create whatever you want to create, to joyously, ecstatically try this and that, and try everything. Some words from our friend Bashar. It is your call. It is your game. It is your experience. It's up to you. Consciousness is what creates your experience. There is no real, empirical, outer reality. The only thing that is real is your experience of it. Passion, joy, love, that sense of balance and peace is the body's physical translation of the vibratory frequency that represents your true, natural, core, original self, the self you are actually created by creation to be. One of the greatest gifts you have is that life is meaningless. No situation or circumstance has built-in meaning. The meaning you give, consciously or unconsciously, to any given neutral situation is exactly what you will get out of that situation. In other words, when you step into the role you came here to play, it engenders within you nothing but powerful, positive feelings. You are the source of it all, and nothing can ever disconnect you from that. You are the source of the purpose. What it all means is that what you choose it to mean. We're also going to use some words here from our friend Bentinho Massaro. And bear in mind that he comes at this very fundamentally. When he says causality, he means apparent reality. When he says duality, he means perceiving the physical world and non-physical source as separate existences. Let yourself, if you can, get to the place of understanding what he seeks to convey. Bentinho. If causality, form and relation, feels very real to you, very solid, very external, as if it is really existing apart from awareness, then you can appoint meaning and purpose to everything, like I had a vision or a sign or even simple things. Everything has a purpose from the perspective of duality, from the perspective of causality. But when you're still half believing in causality or duality and you want to wake up, then the only purpose is to regard each experience as a confirmation of awareness, as a confirmation of existence. There's no purpose or cause unless you think it into existence. And he continues. So what remains without thinking about anything? A story about you versus me does not appear. A purpose does not appear. All of that is optional. Stop thinking for a moment and see the thought as it is, not thinking about what it projects. Not denying the thought, but perceiving it as an experience arising rather than seeing from its point of view. The story, I am angry, is a story. But you can also perceive it as an experience that arises, as a sensation. You can either emphasize the story and the causality it projects, or you can allow the thought but not believe in its story. Just see that it's an experience. In other words, as we often say, be an observer as well as a player. See the game from the stands even as you are playing on the field. Give yourself the gift of two perspectives. And then from that place of observing, ask yourself some questions. Am I being in this world as I came here to be? Am I playing this game for all it's worth? Am I finding each day new things to create? Can I feel my hands in the clay of source? And if your answers are not what you'd like them to be, are you ready to reset your priorities and make some new choices? Are you ready to let go of that desperate involvement with so-called reality? Not to leave the game, although you can if you want to, but to play it in a whole new way. From our friends Abraham last week, you came into this time-space reality for the exhilaration of creation. In other words, you're simply here to be you and create whatever you want. And this week, Abraham's words speak of those priorities we've been on about here today. Let your alignment with well-being be first and foremost, and let everything else be secondary. And not only will you have an eternally joyous journey, but everything you have ever imagined will flow effortlessly into your experience. There is nothing you cannot be, do, or have, but your dominant intent is to be joyful. The doing and the having will come into alignment once you get that one down. Indeed. Fun is number one. Remember that above all else. Remember that when the world seems to be pressing in on you, and make a new choice. Remember that when you're thinking that stage you're on is really important. It's not. It's just the place you've created to play out your adventure. And now we move to our longer discussion, and we welcome your questions.
This Hangout on Air was the summary of our theme for the week. Our longer discussion continues this week on our conference line on Thursday, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You're welcome to join us. It also continues now on our conference line. Remember to press *6 on your handset if you have questions or comments.